Hello and welcome. This is a video on Revelation Prophecy Timeframes and how they relate to the Daniel timeframes previously looked at. First, we can have a quick review of Daniel 8, 9 and 12. We know there's 490 years from the command to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until the kingdom. And we're told about some of the events in this time period, especially the last 7 years where it focuses on a prince that will come in peace but destroy Jerusalem. However, he will be destroyed when Jesus returns. So before looking at Revelation, I will grey out the Daniel sections as it's easier to see the Revelation additions. So first we need to look at Revelation 11 verse 2. But the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread under foot 42 months. This wording is very similar to part of the Daniel prophecy about the 2,300 days, when the sanctuary and host are trodden under foot. So it would seem reasonable to have this as the starting point for this prophecy. Because of this, it's worth working out a rough idea of the time between the start of the 2,300 days and the 3.5-year point. This is around 34 months. We know the treading underfoot will be for 42 months, so we have around 8 months left. So this would go after the 3.5-year point. So now we can put in the 42 months. Then I think it makes sense to have the destruction of the city starting after the treading down. So I have moved this section to that specific point. We are also told the whole of Jerusalem will be trodden down, so I will add that detail in the start of the 2,300 days. Next we have Revelation 11 verse 3. And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. So we have a time period of 1,260 days, but where would this be placed? Well, we need to get more information from other verses. We know the 2 witnesses are killed at the end of the 1,260 days, and then we're told in verse 11, and after 3 days and a half the Spirit of life from God entered into them, and they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. So they are raised after 3.5 days. And another clue is given in verse 12. And they heard a great voice from heaven saying unto them, Come up hither. And they ascended up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies beheld them. The Bible tells us that when Jesus returns, he will take the dead and then the living. So if these 2 witnesses are being raised, then Jesus must have returned just at this point. So we know roughly that the 3.5 days may be in the last 45 days. But can we narrow it down? I think we may from verse 10. And they that dwell upon the earth shall rejoice over them, and make merry, and shall send gifts one to another, because these 2 prophets tormented them that dwelt on the earth. The world is ecstatic that these 2 people are dead, and this would tie in very neatly with the power of the holy people being scattered. So using the information given, I think it's fair to put the 1,260 days near the end of the 7 years. We can also see that there will be approximately 30 days from the abomination of desolation until the 2 witnesses. Then we can put the 3.5 days into the last 45 days and have this as being when Jesus will return. So following on, we can look at Revelation 13 and the beast of the sea. And we're told, And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. So we are told that this beast will continue 42 months. So the beast must have been around before this point, and that its deadly head wound was healed, and that's what makes the world wonder at it and wonder who can defeat it. So most likely there was a battle before this point that nearly wiped out the beast, but it comes back against all odds, and people think it's undefeatable, and possibly a major reason why people will worship it. In order to know where this should be placed, we can take a look at Revelation 13 verse 6. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven. And then verse 7. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, and to overcome them, and power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. We also know that the beast will be destroyed by Jesus at his return, As we are told in Revelation 19 verse 20, "And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. These both were cast alive into a lake of fire burning with brimstone." So the beast, which is the beast of the sea, and the false prophet, which is the beast of the earth, also spoken of in Revelation 13, are both destroyed at Jesus' return, which means the beast of the sea has to be around at Jesus' return for this to have happened. So using that information, and the blaspheming and the killing of the saints, I think we could easily put these 42 months to run around the same time as the two witnesses in the last half of the 7 years. It may start 30 days sooner, on the 3.5-year mark, or the breaking of the covenant may be 30 days later than what I've already put on, as Daniel 9 states the middle of the 7 years, and the middle isn't a precise time, unlike other prophecies which state exact days. So it may not necessarily mean the exact 3.5-year point. It could be a few months either side. But I'm going to add the 42 months in and leave the rest as it is for now to see if it's clarified at another point. Also, 42 months is not as an exact time as 1,260 days. So it may be 42 months and 3 weeks. As long as it doesn't increase to 43 months, then it's still within the 42-month mark. Now we can look at Revelation 12 and the time frame spoken of about the woman. So Revelation 12 verse 6 says, "And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had the place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days." So before this we have been told of a few events. The woman was in labour, the dragon cast 1/3 of the stars to earth with its tail, the dragon stood before the woman ready to eat the child when it was born, the woman gave birth to man-child which ascended to heaven, and this is when the woman flees into the wilderness for the 1,260 days. But even with all that information, I don't think we're able to place that 1,260 days on the chart very easily at the moment. But after this, in Revelation 12, we're told that there was a war in heaven, and then the dragon and his angels are cast onto the earth, and a woe is spoken about. And this is probably because this is when believers are persecuted and very likely killed. So then we were told in Revelation 12 verse 14, "And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness into her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent." So working backwards, we know that we have a time, times and a half spoken of in Daniel 12 already, and it is a time of persecution and death for believers, so I think we can put that in the same place. Now the 1,260 days is slightly harder to place, at least for me, but there's no indication of a time gap between the 1,260 days and the time, times and a half. And the first half of the 7 years is approximately 1,265 days, so it would fit in very well here. So I'm going to place it there under proviso that I may move it in the future if it's clearly wrong. So that's the end of the time frames in Revelation. There is the time frame in the 5th trumpet, but that will be covered elsewhere. But when Revelation time frames are put together with Daniel time frames, they seem to fit very well. And again, I think it gives us another layer of information about what is going to happen. And I hope to expand on this in further videos. Thank you for listening, and God bless.